Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. A Teachable Moment, written by You Sure I'm Not a Robot. Commander, we can no longer hold him. We have lost all rear support. Our intel is shut to hell. We don't even know where our own people are, let alone the damned aliens. Give us an hour before we lose access to the orbitals. This offensive is shut. We need to pull back before it's too late. The commander looked grey, greyer than normal when the stamp wore, and nodded. Give the order. I want as clean withdrawal as possible. Leave our prisoners behind. He paused and looked at his second. Make sure our men leave them alive and unharmed. Leave a few medics behind if necessary. The second hesitated and then stopped himself from adding anything. Sir, Intel wants them and we have the room. He looked bitterly at the numbers. We have plenty of room. The commander shook his head. And then the enemy will hunt us down looking for them. Intel always wants prisoners. It gives them something to do instead of bleeding with us. If I give these bastard creatures a reason to follow our retreat, we won't make it out of the system. They will waste time recovering their people, and it'll buy us some time. He looked at the charts. Long enough for us to get off of this hell world and fall back. Do it! The troop ships were damaged and under heavy fire as they tried to retreat, until the aliens found their captured troops, beaten, hungry, but alive. The weapons fire trailed off to a near silence as they were allowed to leave, some unspoken courtesy offered for the gift. The discovery that some of the enemy medics had remained to care for the people silenced the last gun. For now. The commander pulled his men from the wrecked landers and heard silence fall as the enemy allowed him a breath, a single moment to flee. He had no illusion that it would last longer than a heartbeat before the attacks resumed. Gratitude had a very short half-life in war. Get our ships moving! Blow the orbitals once we're loaded. We don't have time to take them with us. I want everything that can move on its way out of the system in 20 minutes. I think they'll give us that long as it is clear that we are running. He could see the reluctance from his second and leaned forward. Son, this is what losing looks like. We get our people out and save what we can. He held up the battle reports. These are glorious dead. For what? I want the bloody living, and that's our job now. They'll probably shoot me for cowardice anyway, so let's do it by the numbers. Today we run fast, we run clever. But don't pretend to yourself that we are not running. Execute my orders. The troops huddled in the near-empty quarters. The medbays were full as the scattered fleet abandoned the battle. The soldiers looked at each other and said nothing about the empty beds, the bloodstains on the floor, the crying and the dumb silence from their comrades as they fled. Defeat is not the wailing and gnashing of teeth. It's the frozen silence, the sudden death of purpose. Its smell is rotten blood, and it tastes like copper. Without the will to do more than sit and clean their weapons over and over again, the troops waited to see if they would die in the darkness instead of the dirt. The endless silence grew longer as the fleet drew together and left the system unmolested. The burning orbitals and broken bodies, the only sign of their attack. The battered collection of ships, the debris of the glorious plan, and the embarrassment of its command trickled into safety. The commander watched and waited as his people were taken carefully from his ships. They were heroes after all. Everyone is a fucking hero when things go to crap. He signed his last orders and waited. Everyone but the commander, because it had to be someone's fault, and today it would be his. It didn't take long, a squad of military police making its way through the ship without a word. He supposed he should end his life right now, but a blast through his heart and save his family the embarrassment. With a grim smile, he recalled that he despised his family. Maybe they would say he fell in battle, give his corpse a promotion and a medal. He waited. The military police were surprised to find him alive. He could tell. Their orders would have implied otherwise, and a clever captain would have made sure of it before he ever left the office. He would have shot first and written the report accordingly. He sighed to himself. This is why we have sergeants. They know how this is supposed to go. He stood and nodded. Captain, my command is yours. Follow your orders. The captain looked at him long and hard. The silence drew out. Sir, my orders stand. On a personal note, I would like to thank you for recovering my brother from the bloodbath. In fact, all of my squad had people down on that hell world, and we are grateful for your efforts, even if they didn't all make it back. The squad's eyes were all darkened with unspoken grief. The captain saluted even if his men had raised their weapons. Commander, you are charged with cowardice in the face of the enemy, abandoning your post, and the willful destruction of fleet assets. You are now in my custody until your duly appointed commission is prepared. His cell was everything he expected. Dull, grey, and far from anyone he could consider an ally, except perhaps his warden. Some whisper had passed through the troops, and some little quiet voice of defiance. Not enough to stop plasma, but enough to give him clean water and clean food. Several times weapons had been left accessible to him, in case he wanted to end this. He was prepared to wait. Someone had left a book behind, another a journal. His guards were remarkably careless. He lay back and closed his eyes, reliving the campaign in detail, counting the dead and recalling the names. He'd been summoned from some wretched meeting, trying to replace idiotic heroics with tactics and strategy. The fleet had grown beyond belief in a mad rush of nationalism and rage. A new king, and suddenly everyone was an enemy. He had repeatedly pointed out that space was infinite, that they had access to any resources that they could care to mention. To control an infinite space, you need an infinite fleet. None of that mattered, not to a command that wanted glory. They wanted victories that showed how very clever they were, how very holy was the cause. Other people's blood spilt to make them feel significant. When the messages arrived, he had expected to be dismissed. Instead, he had been promoted again and sent to kill and hopefully die. An inconvenient truth and an unwanted relic of different days. He had been a soldier all of his life, and so he went to war. He knew it had shocked command when he had won and kept winning. They had never trusted him, but then suddenly they needed him. As the enthusiastic amateurs got chewed up by an army that didn't listen to its own propaganda. Then the king, that spiteful little prick that he was, had wanted him gone. The victories were supposed to be his, not some upstart from the ranks. They had given him another promotion, a fleet, and a suicide run. He had tried to keep the wretched walls as honest as possible, taking surrenders when he could, getting only when he had to. His habits had twisted the fleet into his own image in some strange way. His example keeping the worst of the petty misery at bay. They could pretend to hold on to their honor even as they crushed some alien swarming world into submission. The excess of his men were punished, the locals respected. Apparently, that had annoyed the king even more. His mind exhausted itself with the memories, and finally, he found sleep. The fleet informally summoned the commission, senior officers, most of whom could read between the lines on a report. One of them looked up. So, is he still with us? If he was going to leave, he had more than one opportunity. He's making a point. The officer leaned back. I believe this is what he used to tell us as a teachable moment. He wants us to listen to him. One of the younger officers, his braid still shiny, scowled. He failed. Pass the sentence and let us move on. He's been nothing but a weight around our necks since the beginning. If he thought he'd find support, he was wrong. The room temperature dropped, and an older officer turned to him. How many victories have you had? None. How many battles have you fought from your desk in intel? None. If you speak again, I'll make it my personal crusade to see you fight heroically on the next Durball our king wants. Am I clear? From the sudden silence, he felt his point was made. Very well, this commission is formally opened. Summon the commander, and let us listen. The king has already passed the sentence. Let us look for wisdom, since we cannot hope for mercy. It was a quiet knock that awoke him. So today was the day. He had no great wish to die, but he had a point or two to make. He regarded the image in the mirror with some sympathy, like a trooper that had failed an impossible task. Today, he would pay all the debts and, if the fools were right, he could explain to those he had sent to the deaths. The troopers were respectful, enough to get them in trouble. He whispered to the captain, I'm sure you were issued cuffs. Your formation is wrong. Captain, don't take such risks. He had been met with a stony glance and silence. The men formed up into an honor guard as they opened the door. Crap. The commission was sitting in tense silence as they waited for the commander. For the young, it was a lesson as the older members rose and saluted. That the guards had formed an honor guard was the greatest surprise. More than one officer checked that his sidearm was available. The oldest of the commission was the first to speak. He looked directly at the captain of the guard. Captain, the commander was my teacher for many years. He'll be shown no disrespect here. You may hold your guard until the bitter end. Am I clear? The captain stiffened and then saluted. Sir, I'll be the king's hand in all things. Until then, I hold the guard. Another member of the commission, still holding a salute, responded, The guard is yours. The captain nodded and pulled back silently, closing the door behind him and his squad. The commander looked around, his memory cataloging each of the judges. 7 stood for his sentry, 6 had remained seated. The exchange with the guard was painful to hear. The captain would be his last face he would ever saw, and that would hurt the man. He could read the room. The king had taken a hand. Truth then, since nothing else remained. He began. If I may, I would like to access my records from the campaign. There is much you need to know. He was interrupted by the intel officer. Prisoner, you are here to plead to the charges. This is not some show and tell. I have full records of the events, he said back. Your interpretation is meaningless. You lost. The commander looked at the creature, wearing every bit of metal a non-combat officer could carry without falling over. You are a disgrace to the fleet, a parody of our people. You refuse to learn, and we pay in blood. Shut up and learn something. I am here to die. Don't expect me to listen to your nonsense while I am waiting. He stepped forward, suddenly a true predator. Or you may choose combat. The intel officer fled the room, screaming for the guards. From the heavy thud that was heard from the outside, they heard him. The door was closed silently. The captain held the guard. The commander nodded as the records became available. Now, for those of you that were in my class, I won't dwell too much on the basics, but for the rest of you, it's clear that war, particularly religious or xenophobic war, will always fail. Simple math. There are many more of them than there are of us. Space is free. Stuff is free. As I taught you many years ago, you fight for advantage and nothing else. More stuff? They have stuff. Better tech? Buy it. Steal it. If I might add, going to war because your enemy has better tech is a recipe for suicide. Anyway, one of the younger commissioners hesitantly interrupted. Forgive me, but is this evidence? The commander nodded. Good point. Consider this a confession. Anyway, as I was saying, our fleet was sent to rampage through local space, mostly ruining perfectly good trade relations and tourism. I was, to my regret, the one sent to do this. I am a soldier. I go where I am sent. A miserable excuse, but the only one all of us have. The older commissioner interrupted. Sir, if you could, can we discuss the last campaign? I've never seen you lose. They are still out there. I need to know what to do. The commander sighed, the illusion of the classroom falling away. These men would need to hear the truth, and then he would be led to his death by an honorable man. He nodded. The king, may the very dirt reject his bones, sent me to make war on the humans. You don't know them. They were barely in space when I arrived. Another new nation to add to his stupid uniform. There are less than 12 billion of them in the galaxy, and for that you should be grateful. 3 worlds, 3 peaceful worlds. One of my patrols mistook them for pirates and attacked. We lost. Our ships were taken. The humans seemed to be built for war, and they went looking for us since they wanted to apologize for the misunderstanding. Our king killed their ambassador and shrieked for war. He put diagrams up on the screen. They had only 3 worlds because they didn't have FTL. We gave it to them when we attacked. Then because we are stupid, we attacked again. These creatures are war. He changed the screen. Here was my plan for the invasion of one of their outposts. Nothing special, just another farming world. You've seen the battle reports. They massacred our people, using battle tactics I've never seen and hope to never see again. They are masters of cruelty, masters of silence. They will steal everything that you hold close. He stopped. They are honorable, probably more than I rattled King. My fleet was allowed to leave. Allowed. He searched the faces of the commission. Seek peace, or we will die to these people. He continued, falling back into the briefing habits of a lifetime. The small details: secure the water supply, nearly 1,000 lost in the first day. Secure the tree line, another 1,000 lost to human snipers. Touch nothing, everything is a trap. Buildings are always traps. Small patrols often are better than large ones, rarely. Everything is a bomb until you prove otherwise. They prefer to injure than kill. It costs us more. Intel is wrong all the damn time and 3 weeks behind you. A prisoner will tell you nothing but lies and will kill you if they can. They will tell the truth only when it hurts you. They don't hurt the captured, but they never truly surrendered. They have better rules than us, and we needed them. The commission was still engrossed and taking notes when the door opened. The captain of the guard saluted. Sir, the orders have arrived. The king requires the sentence to be carried out. Apparently he will be watching, and he wants to go to dinner. The commander looked around him, seeing the future. These men had listened. He could leave this battlefield with hope. He raised his hand in salute, pretending not to see the tears, and turned to the captain. At your command, Captain. The yard was dull as his soul, grey and solid. The captain and his squad had maintained an honor guard, a petty detail that he appreciated even as the war got closer. He had rattled off every lesson that he could remember, but he knew it would only slow down the loss, perhaps even shorten the war. If he had to die for that, well, it was worth it. He recognized the stupid silken banner of the king, his royal idiot, sending good people to die for a new shiny badge. The creature himself was probably at the bar. He reached the wall and stood at attention, trying to keep his tail straight. The captain stood silent in front of him and held out a blindfold. Sir, The commander shook his head. He preferred to die in daylight. The captain grimaced and began trying it anyway. Captain! Sir? Shut the fuck up. He stepped back. Squad, ready. There was a pause as his honor guard took positions. It seemed to take an age before the king took his place, and they could begin firing. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you